Wing!
Feeling pretty good. I'm light on my feet.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Off the Lip radio show with my co-host and friend, Mr. Terry Campion's in the house.
Thank you very much.
And to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws.
Bum, bum.
Bum, 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 bum. This Friday is the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws. We're going to talk about it with expert, aficionado, legend, epic, one of our favorite guests of all time, Dr. David Ebert.
Not only is he the shark namer,
Yeah.
he's the shark tamer. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, guys.
I think this is your fourth or fifth time on the show.
Something like that,
Yeah, it's been a while.
We set this up in like January. You go, Neil, you have to save these dates because I'm coming on your show on these dates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. We had to,
Right?
had to book it.
Well, welcome back. You are, just to let our viewers know, you have named how many sharks?
53 to date.
53 sharks you have named.
Not one of them has got anything to do with our show.
Do you have the record?
No. I'm probably like the third or fourth, number 3 or 4. I'm working on it, though.
Are you striving to be number one?
Always striving to be the best.
And you, who named you the Lost Shark Guy?
That's one I kind of came up with sort of on my own over the years. I should say I had some of the media guys used to start referring to me as the Lost Shark Guy, and then I kind of like thought it was kind of a cool brand name, so I ran with it.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
getting to know you over the years. I feel like it's really appropriate because the first time you were on the show, you said something to me that really struck a chord. Is that great whites are boring to you?
Yeah.
And it's Neil, in the surf community, it's all about this
The whites.
the great white
Right.
shark. But
Yeah.
to you, you probably get more joy discovering a shark this big,
Yep.
and thus that is why you're the Lost Shark Guy.
Yep.
Is that you look for sharks that possibly are extinct
Yeah.
or not seen?
Yeah, a lot of the sharks. Kind of the whole evolution was when I was a young grad student. I'd go out in the field, and I've talked about being in Africa and going to like just places nobody had ever gone before, and I was finding all these weird sharks and rays. And then I'd bring them back, and I'd show my advisor Leonard Campagno, and he'd go like, "Oh my gosh, we haven't seen this thing like in 100 years or 125 years." And so I was like, "Okay, cool," because I couldn't figure out what it was because nobody'd seen one for all these years. And so over time, I just kind of I started doing some media and stuff, and the media guys started referring to me like the Lost Shark Guy. And so I just kind of thought it was a cool brand name, so I just kind of ran
Yeah,
with
you
it.
roll with it.
Yeah.
I want to segue to the beginning because
I want to talk.
again,
we talk about before the beginning.
well,
like,
before the beginning, right?
What-
But the first time he was on the show.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, you said that a large reason why you are the Lost Shark Guy is because of this movie.
That's true. That's true because of the movie Jaws. And the thing is, this is something everybody. You'll see a lot of people like this week talking about how how sharks are like they're fished heavily. They have these shark competitions and all of this. A lot of hyperbole. The thing is before the movie came out, sharks were being fished. They were being finned. They were being used for the squalene, the liver oil. They were being caught
Here?
all over the world.
Okay.
All over the world. But nobody paid any attention to them. And I mean, I know from growing up in Monterey, like there'd be a shark attack. A shark attack. It'd be like a one-day news story, and that'd be it. But after the movie Jaws came out, suddenly there's this. Everybody's like going, "Oh my gosh, there's all these sharks out here." And you'll see a lot of rhetoric today because people like Peter Benchley, who wrote the book, Steven Spielberg, who did the movie, started like feeling bad. Like later on in the 2000s, they started talking about how it was really felt bad, like they caused all these shark kills and that's really isn't what happened. I speak as someone who's part of the Jaws generation who lived through this. That sharks were already being fished, but nobody paid any attention to them. But after the movie, it suddenly became this big frenzy. Use the word there.
If you look at the movie now, you go, "That's not going to happen. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
That ain't going to happen."
Well, yeah. That's the whole thing. And a lot of the stuff when the movie came out, you see things like when the shark jumps in the back of the boat. You're like, that can't happen. Well, we know now they can. Mm-hmm. But what happened though, after the movie came out, and I was like in high school when it came out, is that people started asking a lot of questions about like, well, how many shark species are there? How many, where do they move to? How many young do they have? How old do they get? All these questions started coming up. And so because these people started asking all these questions, there's some research funding started becoming available. Before Jaws, the only research funds they had was just for shark attack and how to prevent shark attacks. And it had to do with the Office of Naval Research. But people started asking a lot more questions about it. And look, the shark fisheries and the shark kill tournaments, they became big. They became really big as far as, a lot of notoriety. Because every time, if you lived through that era like I did, like you guys did, somebody would see a shark in Monterey Bay, it'd be like a big deal. Whereas a year or two before, it'd be like, oh, well, we saw a shark today.
So you're saying that Jaws actually helped you with your career?
Basically, Jaws created the entire field of contemporary shark research, was thanks to the movie Jaws.
And the same movie that created the possibility for your career gave you the push to start your career.
Yeah, well, actually, I was interested in sharks before that. Actually, here's the funny story: is that I was interested in sharks before the movie came out, but what I didn't know, because I was just a young, dumb kid, was there was no field of shark research. So here I had this thing like, I'm going to study sharks, but there was no field. So thank you, Peter Benchley, Steven Spielberg, for creating this field.
Before you're saying that the idea of being a shark researcher was limited?
Yes, yeah. I mean, there really was shark research. Literally, was basically had to do with preventing shark attacks.
So you're like the newborn and the grandpa of an industry.
Yeah, literally, like in the people of my generation, we refer to as the Jaws generation because this whole field was created because of the movie. Mm-hmm. And if you catch my current podcast, Beyond Jaws, you hear myself, Chris Lowe, Lisa Natanson, Greg Skolmo, all people that we all came up together and we all went on and had wonderful careers in shark research thanks to the movie Jaws. And in fact, one of the people, guests on the show, we've all knew each other, for 40 years now. Chris Lowe, he actually grew up in Martha's Vineyard when they were filming the movie Jaws, and a lot of people in the movie were friends of his. So that was kind of, if you catch the podcast, he talks a little bit about some of that stuff.
When you saw the movie TC, what did you think? I mean, you were surfing back then, right?
I quit.
You quit surfing?
No, I literally, I remember I saw it in Long Beach, California.
Yeah.
I was on vacation with my parents. We were surfing the terrible waves. But I'm like, I'm not surfing tomorrow. I literally was like, I'm not going in the water. It scared me.
We had, I grew up in the Monterey area. We went and saw it at the Steinbeck Theater on Cannery Row. And actually that morning we'd been out spearfishing because I was really big into spearfishing at that time, free diving. And so we went and watched the movie and thought, oh, this is a really cool movie, It's like, so the next day we went back and went spearfishing again. It literally just like, because we thought, we took it as a monster movie.
Right,
Literally,
right.
And do you consider them to be treated as monsters?
No.
Do you have is the fear real of what humanity has towards great white sharks?
I think there's just a fear in wildlife in general because you could replace a white shark with a grizzly bear or a mountain lion or a lion or other predators. The mystique with the white sharks is because you're in the ocean. It's not like you're walking in the woods, which parts of you could run into bears or something. But if you're in the water, so you don't know. And that opening scene there with a young girl swimming in the ocean, that captures sort of that terror that people feel, like being in the ocean at night by yourself.
I watched the movie the other day. I watched the movie. I go, come on, ladies, swim! Start swimming.
Well, no, the creepiest part to me was the next day when she's wrapped up in kelp and there's a crab crawling on it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen the movie in 20 years. I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, the part that got me and it still does today is the part where the guy Ben Gardner when they go out at night and Matt Hooper, the shark guy, and the sheriff. Brody, they kind of pull up, they find the boat floating.
Oh, the head comes out?
Yeah, the head comes out of it. That, to me, that's still like the scariest part of the whole movie. And
you know it's coming.
Yeah,
you know it's coming. But,
but
the first time I saw that, like at the theater in 1975, it was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I'm with you. For those of you tuning in, Dave Ebert's here. I call you the #1 shark expert in the world.
Well, thank you, man.
Is there somebody else that you
Well, there's number 2 and number 1, apparently.
Well, is there somebody else in that group that you think about?
Well, tune into my podcast. You can hear them.
You can hear those guys?
Yeah, three of my closest friends.
Why are we doing this, by the way? We're going to be
because
on Friday?
I was going to meet with you on Friday,
Yep.
right, at Cat and Cloud.
Yep.
And then we did that before. It was very entertaining. A lot of people watched it. So we decided to do it again, but we decided to do it at the Loft at Twin Lakes Church because Pastor Renee, one of our show...
Right. Wants to do that.
Wanted much to do it. He wanted to have some kind of little community thing at the church.
And that's going to be Friday morning.
At the Loft Coffee Shop,
Loft,
June
9
20th,
o'clock.
which is the 50th anniversary. That's the day of it.
That is June 20th. It will be the day of the 50th
So
anniversary.
come down, check, listen to Dave, ask Dave some questions, and we're going to be giving away. Cindy's going to give away some Merge 4 socks.
Some free socks.
Yeah,
We'll be
get free
giving away.
socks.
And if you're wondering why I have these books out here,
Yeah.
these are some of my books that I published with Princeton University Press, Sharks of the World, and the Pocket Guide. And actually, I use this one. I literally take this one into the field with me when I go into like areas because it is a helpful guide to the sharks.
Yeah.
And this is one of the East Coast. I'm working on the West Coast one. And then these books are published by Princeton University Press. And if you go on their website and you enter the code PUP30, you'll get a 30% discount on these
wow.
books.
I have this book.
Yeah.
And I believe it or not, I pulled it out today and I was flipping through it. And the art in here is amazing.
Yep. Mark Dando's a phenomenal artist, and if you're ever going to write like a guidebook like this,
Yeah.
you got to find an artist. And like Mark is just
Show that,
amazing.
GC.
Is this
Yeah.
a textbook style book? Is this used as textbook?
It could be used as a textbook, but it's really written for the average person. Mm-hmm. It's like if you got to and part of why I like to do these books is because my parents gave me a book when I was literally like 5 years old on sharks, and my mom still has it, and that just inspired me at the age of 5 to want to go study sharks, and here I am decades later, and I get as enthusiastic now as I did, many decades ago.
What's your best day lost shark hunting?
Man, it's the day I haven't had yet, the one I'm still going to go look for, because it's always it's literally it's like Christmas, so you never know what's coming up.
Okay, where do you think that's you're going to sticking your nose into?
Well, my next expedition is going to be in September to Madagascar,
Okay.
and so I'll probably have some good stories after that trip.
Do you know what you're looking for yet?
Yes, I'm looking for a blue spotted bamboo shark. I'm looking for a particular type of torpedo ray, and I'm looking for a guitar fish that none of these have been seen in like 100
What's
years.
I'm
like-
curious about the bamboo. Is that freshwater or something?
No, that's a species that's only known from a couple specimens in Madagascar. It hasn't been seen in literally like decades.
GC, do you have a favorite Dave Ebert story?
I do, and we can relive this because
One of it's the same as
My
mine.
favorite is when you went, and you could relive this. You were in a very small boat next to a very big shark.
Yeah, I share this story a lot. It was we were out and this is the car gets in the whole exploration thing. I went to on these expeditions in Namibia back in the day, and we were talking about this earlier. It's like, this is when there was no GPS, no cell phones, no nothing. We literally had a compass and a map, and that was all you had. And you literally would tell people like, well, I'll see you in about 8 weeks, and you just go. And the other part.
And you hopefully come home.
Well, literally, I mean, I can literally remember telling this to my advisor and a couple people, like, we're going to be gone in this sort of 500-kilometer area of Namibia.
Which is it like heavy? Is a deep forest type of?
No, it's a desert.
Oh, it's a desert.
It's a desert. And so I said, we'll be gone for 8 weeks. If you don't hear from us in 10, come look for us. And so...
that sounds like Chris Burdish story.
Yeah, hopefully come look for us.
Yeah. If they're looking for you in 10 weeks, it's not going to probably end well for them, but I made it back, thankfully. And so we'd go there. It was an amazing time. We just discovered all kinds of species, and this is where I kind of started getting my reputation, because we found stuff that people had not seen, but nobody had ever gone there to look for sharks and rays before at the time. Mm-hmm. And so, and during this whole excursion on the first time, I did a couple trips there, but the first time we went there, we went to this place called Luderitz, and there's a lagoon there, and we got to talking to one of the guys there. The short story is basically he loaned us a rowboat.
It's freshwater lagoon or saltwater?
No, it's a marine lagoon. It was a harbor.
Brackish?
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a little harbor.
Yeah.
And they called it lagoon, but it was a harbor. And fishing for crayfish, lobster is a big deal. And to give you an idea, this is when they used to do all the diamond mining there. And so you would drive up the middle of the desert in Namibia, then you'd turn like left, and you'd go like 400 kilometers to the coast. And like on each side...
Dirt road?
Oh, yeah, kind of a hard packed dirt road. And on each side of the road, about 20 meters on each side, would be this little barbed wire fence. It looked almost like nothing. But if you step on the other side of that fence, believe me, guys are going to come looking for you because you'd be on the diamond mines.
Yeah.
And so I remember meeting some guys in this town, which was a total Wild West town. We'd be talking about stuff, and he'd say like, I remember going like, do you guys have any problem here, like crime or anything? And he says, oh no, if we have a problem, we just bury them in the desert. And dude, there's a lot of fucking desert there. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's no language barrier. You can pretty much.
Interpreters? What are they speaking?
English,
Oh, okay.
English, German, Dutch, whatever, you know.
And so you borrow this little rowboat.
So we borrowed a rowboat, this lagoon, because it turned out this lagoon had one of these sharks I was looking for, and there were lots of them out there.
And what was it?
It was a 7-gill shark.
Okay.
We get them here in Monterey Bay, and then you can see them at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And so we'd row out to the middle of the lagoon and, like, you know, catch these sharks, put them in the boat. These are like, you know, maybe 8, 9 feet long. Throw them in the boat, row
How big's
back.
a 8, 9 foot shark?
Yeah, we'd row them in the boat. We'd have like this much of the water line, row back, put them on the beach, row back out there, catch some more, because when they're biting, you want to catch them, you want to get them. And there's like really nobody around. There's a little town there and stuff, and so we're out there at the one time, and we have this like this is crazy stuff you do.
TC's already shaking.
Yeah, we're pulling this like 7-gill shark, and I'm kind of getting ready to gaff it, and all of a sudden like everything just sort of turns white, and the shark just kind of goes poof, disappears, and basically what happened was this big white shark came up and like snapped this 7-gill shark, and it went alongside the boat. Now the boat was about 10 feet, and I'm literally like in the movie Jaws.
That's like a bathtub.
It literally is, and it was a fiberglass boat too. And so I'm literally, so as the shark swims by, and obviously you realize your mind, it's hard to explain, your mind cannot process what you're watching. And so we pulled it, but the shark was still on the line that just got bit. And so we pulled it into the boat, and we're kind of like, at first kind of like just this adrenaline sort of kicks in. We're like, wow, this is kind of really cool. And I take my camera, I take a picture or two, and then all of a sudden we kind of look at each other and I go like, we're going to die.
How big was that great white shark?
It was bigger in the boat. Okay, so let's put it that way. So it was over. I mean, I could, you know, it's bigger than me. It's bigger.
We'll say 12 to 14 feet or something.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah, somewhere in there. And so, like, my friend actually is pretty clever.
Why'd you pull the bait, the rest of that shark in? I would have thrown a fishing pole overboard.
Well, as a grad student, it was a data point, which is when you're a marine. If you have young kids that want to be marine biologists, this is the stupid stuff you do. It's a data point. So, like, I might die getting eaten by a shark, but by God, I'm going to keep that data point.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, this fear starts setting in. I'm thinking, like, we're going to die out here. So my friend actually hooks up another bait and throws it over and catches another shark, a 7-gill, and he lets the shark run. He's playing this thing. I'm like, we're going to die. And I just start rowing to shore.
So you got 3 people in a 10-foot boat.
Two people and a bunch of sharks in the boat that are already kind of like dead or dying.
Do sharks get mad if you catch a shark? Like,
no.
Do you think that?
No, what happens if you catch one of these sharks and you're kind of like bringing them in, you got to get them in the boat because their buddies will start eating them.
Oh.
That happens pretty commonly. But yeah, we catch one of the sharks to bring it in. It wouldn't be uncommon for those 7-gills to start snapping at them and stuff. But I got a better one I haven't told you guys yet.
I remember there's a story you wanted to tell. You mentioned there was a story. I said, don't tell it. We were in the restaurant.
I'm going to tell you that now.
Oh, you can tell us now.
Drum
roll, please.
So I was living in Cape
Hang on.
Town.
Play the music while he's telling the story.
Oh, I got it. Yeah. We got this. Yes, we do have it. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We got props.
Yeah, I can tell.
Okay, you can start.
Okay, so
we got Domino's commercial. Okay, start the story. I'll cue up the music.
Hang on. Okay.
So I was living in Cape Town. I was working on a project with another student, and we were working on this little one called Shy Shark. We're doing cute little sharks to say that we're doing a diving study on these things. And so we're at a place called the Boulders in Cape Town, and we're in our dive room. We're walking out, and there's some divers coming out, and they say like they're kind of joking. It was like a joke. They go like, "Oh, hey, keep an eye out for whitey." And we're kind of like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, great," you know. So we go out and we go diving, and we're out there for whatever 45 minutes, an hour diving, doing our project, and we come back out of the water and we're walking up. And these guys are sitting on the beach, and he said, "Hey, did you see Whitey out there?" And I said, like, What are you talking about? Well, there's that big, like 15, 16-foot white shark that's been swimming around there while you guys were diving. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a 15-foot shark out there and you didn't tell us that? He goes, well, I told you to watch out for whitey. I said, no, what you needed to say was, hey, watch out for the big fucking white shark out there in the ocean, where you guys are going to go diving.
Yeah.
These guys are literally sitting on the beach watching this white shark fin around, and they're watching our bubbles come up. And they're just like sitting there like,
Well, you're on your own, bro.
yeah, it's like, yeah, so it was literally like, I'm like, dude, you don't, I thought it was a joke. And my friend.
Well, you got to be prepared for men. That's what you do for a living, right? So you got to be prepared a little bit for.
Yeah, but when you're literally going into the water and the guys getting out because they got buzzed by a white shark.
Yeah.
They don't tell you?
And they don't say like, hey, buddy,
Thanks, bro.
there's a big white shark. No, they just kind of say, hey, watch out for whitey. Well, I know there's white sharks around there, and I knew every time you go in the water, you might see a white shark.
Mm-hmm.
So this part of the show right here, we're going to cast off right now, is for the one and only Mr. Sean Dollar. Okay, TC, he told me that Mr. Sean Dollar, hey, give me the story.
Well, we want to go back to the
The Sean Roby?
to Robi and some of the anti-shark things, right? Because over the years we have talked to you about the ankle bracelet that puts off a magnetic field. We've talked about the wetsuit with stripes.
Yep.
You pretty much have debunked all of those. I did a little Google search earlier, and even Google debunks that. They say if it gives you peace of mind, then go for it.
Yeah.
But realistically, do shark deterrents work?
No. Well, okay, let me qualify that. If you're going out, say, surfing, and say Guy Kawasaki's going with you, and he wants to wear this fancy little thing, an ankle bracelet, that's a great idea, Guy. Put out all the vibrations you can. And you...
But leave Guy alone.
Yeah, just let Guy surf, and then you guys can just surf and have fun and just enjoy it, and because the sharks work off vibrations and frequencies in the water. And so if you've got something on your ankle or something on your wrist that's putting out some vibration, there might be 20 of you in the water, but that shark's going to zero in on the one with the... No.
Well, today we were talking about the stomp pad that has a frequency that's supposed to scare off sharks and have your friends get bit. But what you're telling me right now is that if you have the ankle bracelet on, the frequency spreading stomp pad, a striped wetsuit, you actually could be the first course.
That's what the shark's going to zero in on.
So ideally for Christmas, you should buy all your friends those items.
Yeah, or at least the ones you don't like.
I love that. And because there's
so Bro is going to be getting a lot of...
on my social media, there's stuff like that coming up all the time. Because I follow a lot of surf and ocean related stuff, and I'm always like, these guys are dumbasses.
Yeah, well, they've been doing that for a lot of that.
How about the chain wetsuit?
Yeah, the same thing. It puts out frequency. You attract.
So they still bite.
The big thing of the chain mail wetsuit is that it can prevent the teeth from cutting you, but the pressure on from those sharks biting you is still going to could crush your arm or leg or whatever. Right. But it might prevent you a bit from being from tearing your.
And as we know, because it's the 50th anniversary of the Jaws movie,
yes, sir.
Even the shark cage doesn't work.
No.
Correct. Well, the cage gives you a little bit of a barrier there, okay? And most of the time, the sharks kind of bump it and swim around and stuff. But sometimes you can find us on social media. These sharks will go off on it. And they'll you remember Matt Hooper in the movie?
Oh yeah. Have you done that? Have you cage dove?
No. I've never had a big interest in doing the cage diving. Maybe it's because I study them and stuff, and I've seen what they can do. This goes back years ago to when I was a grad student. I would see what these things would do, and I'm like, I don't really need to be in the water with that thing.
Yeah.
Well, you've always said that wasn't really your thing. Was the whites? So many people's effort was into that. You went the other way.
Yeah. Well, interesting enough, one of the first papers I ever published was on the age and growth of the white shark in 1985. When I was a master's student at Moss Landing Marine Laboratories, and so I've done a couple papers on white sharks, but there's so many species out there of sharks that there's between the sharks, the rays, and the ghost sharks, there's 1,300 species. Why? And there's 1,000 guys studying one freaking shark.
You've named 53 sharks.
Yeah.
You've probably rediscovered other ones that have been named.
Lots of those. Yeah.
Of all of those, is there a favorite? Is there one shark that, like, if you were to fall off the cliff at the hook and you saw?
Yeah, is there one you'd have as a pet?
Yeah. What would it be?
You know, I'm
Not
always,
the one that you haven't found
It's
yet.
always I'm looking for the one I haven't seen.
Yeah.
'Cause that's the one that gets me excited every day. I mean, the one shark that I always talk about is probably one of my favorite is the 7-gill shark that you see like over here at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And the reason that is because that was what kind of kicked off my whole career. I worked on 7-gill sharks in San Francisco Bay and Humboldt Bay as a grad student, and I ended up, and so I started studying those. And
Yeah.
so that's probably my one because it kind of kicked off my career.
Yeah.
Was that species? So,
Yeah.
So that's always got a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for those.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you've had a great career. I mean, how many people get to study what you've studied over the years?
Oh yeah, and I tell people like I'm still I get as excited today as I did when I was a 5-year-old kid.
What was your feeling when you went and saw the movie at the Cannery Row? Okay, you were leaving. What was the feeling? What was the feeling that you got when you left, Sarah?
Oh, it was an amazing movie. I mean, it was like at that
You didn't think it was corny or?
No. I thought. I mean, there's some stuff I was trying to in my 15-year-old head. I was trying to think like well, this was like was this kind of like what might be true or might not be true. But we didn't. I mean, but even white sharks at that time, we knew nothing about white sharks at all.
Yeah.
And even really into the 80s when I did it a little bit, we didn't know anything. Literally knew nothing about it.
I just think all I remember was sharks back then was living in England was shark fin soup.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
I think that's a good thing. Like if you get a chance, you want to see Jaws now. One of the things I mentioned is that the guy who helped design the mechanical shark Bruce was a guy named Leonard Campagno, who ended up being my professor many years later. But he was a grad student at Stanford University at the time. He was the shark guy in the world, and they basically had him go down and work as a consultant, Steven Spielberg, because they wanted to make sure the movie was as accurate as they can. And the thing is, and you guys can comment on this, like when I saw that movie in '75, that shark looked really freaking real.
Looked pretty real to me too. Real enough that made me not want to go surfing the next day.
Yeah. Well, but then the thing is, like you watch it now, and it looks like like a little. It's not quite. But we know so much more now because we knew nothing about it. But things I talk like today, they'll talk about shark conservation and preserving sharks or conserving sharks. Well, there was no field of shark conservation before Jaws. And in fact, in a book, my first book I did in 1989 with my professor, I wrote a section in there on shark conservation.
Yeah.
And that's the first time anybody had ever written anything on shark conservation.
Wow.
And it wasn't until really the 2000s when they really started to take off.
How is shark conservation today?
Well, they're not being killed.
They're still shark finning like crazy, right?
All this stuff was going on beforehand. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, it gets into. It still goes on in a lot of parts of the world, but the thing is, a lot of the countries I go to are very poor countries, and like protein's a big thing, and things like finning. They're catching sharks already, and this is the thing I try to tell people. If you don't catch something in a lot of these places I go to, they don't eat. And so they catch something, whether it's a shark or whatever, it's going to get eaten. Now the fins, they generally don't eat them there, but I'll be in the middle of nowhere, you see these Chinese buyers will come through and they'll buy stuff.
Right.
The fins. And so it's an added value to them. So
Is it good? Have you ever had shark fin soup?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's like chicken soup? What is it like?
Yeah, literally. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like,
So you got the stomp pad, you got the whole thing, you got the wetsuit, right? I think there should be like a Dave Ebert medallion. Instead of a St. Christopher, you hand out, a medallion that says, I know Dave. That can save you from getting eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
I want to segue to that medallion thing because I wanted to show you something that I found on the beach at New Brighton Beach.
Ooh.
And it's that shark tooth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was down sea glassing with my wife, and I looked down and I found this petrified shark tooth. Mm-hmm. And I thought I would show the master Dave Ebert. Need reading glasses for that?
Yeah.
And what you might think that is, because when I found that, I have found blue glass, pink glass, red glass, but when I found that, I was like, bingo. Okay,
it looks like it has some serrations on the side of it. I would say this is probably a posterior lateral tooth from a white shark.
Really?
Yeah, I mean it's worn. It's really worn.
Well, it's been pounding around the rocks probably for decades.
Yeah, I mean, I found some of these on beaches at Moss Landing occasionally, and I believe it's I'm saying I'm separating it from a salmon shark would be very smooth, or a mako shark would be smooth.
Has the knife serrations in there.
Yeah, where it's got the little serrations you can see
Yeah,
there.
no, I can see those.
That would be that. I'd put it as it'd probably be one of the, I'd say it'd be one of the lateral teeth, not
Okay.
it'd be one of the lateral teeth.
This is like
Probably.
petrified, right? Is that like
Yeah.
bone now? I mean, it's
It's
it's like turned to rock almost.
Yeah, I can't explain there's a process that takes place what causes it to be.
Hundreds of years.
Get on the camera here.
Yeah,
a little
put
bit
that
more.
on the camera.
Yeah.
Literally, I was at New Brighton Beach sea glassing and found that, and I was so fired up
Yeah.
because it looked like a rock. And I was like, "That's an
Yeah.
interesting rock." And I picked it up. I'm like,
I
"What?"
mean,
the hell?
obviously there's places here you can find fossil
Yeah,
megalodons.
Scotts Valley.
Scotts
Yeah,
Valley.
yeah.
You can find those things, but I think this one's probably there's something kind of a thing of how I'm probably not using the right word, but oxidize it causes them to turn that color. But it's probably it might be a couple decades old or something.
knows,
but
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably a more current one.
I know we talked about this before. A little sidebar. I got my friend of mine who's having a celebration of life on Saturday at Platforms. They want to have a little paddle out for their family.
Yeah.
And that's kind of Shark Park right there. What do you think would you recommend they?
Everybody should put a chicken leg in their wetsuit. And
Do you think
paddle out.
It'd probably be okay.
Okay.
There'll be. I mean, there's a lot of little white sharks out there. They're
Yeah,
sort of that.
but they're not aggressive.
Under 10 feet, they mostly feed on
You
fish.
see, under 10 feet.
Yeah. And so
Great idea, Neil.
Imagine.
Take everybody out down there.
yeah.
I can't vouch if somebody if they have
Okay.
a guest, Uncle whatever,
Uncle Joe
whatever,
gets
Uncle Joe shows up who's having
Smelling like
Don't sue me.
yeah.
smelling like bacon.
But usually when I've looked out, when I've been like up in the helicopter with Chris Gallardi, you see
Yeah.
like a lot of these sort of like 6 to 8 foot, small ones.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's bigger than me, it's
You're out of there.
out of there. But you see the smaller ones. But we've talked before. You go down to Manresa, then you see these bigger ones. So if you're going out to by the cement boat or
Isn't this the Manresa sign?
this is the Manresa sign.
Please let me come back. But
See-
we've talked about this before. You've said that like oftentimes they will feed offshore
Yeah.
and then come in and kind of relax.
Yeah, they where a lot of times they hang out is just in back of the surf break, and they just hang out there, and they're just. And again, I've seen these from the air. I've seen them in South Africa, and they just sort of hang there. They're just placed during the day, and then kind of around dawn and dusk is when they start getting really active, and they tend to be more nocturnal. I mean, they have attacks during the day, but most of the time they're just sort of hanging out. And people, when you're surfing or you're at the water or kayaking or paddleboarding, you can't really see them because they're just under the water. The fins.
That's the
not
problem
surfing.
right there.
But if you're up in a helicopter or a drone, you
Yeah.
can see them.
As a lifelong shark person, do you feel surprised we don't have more attacks in Santa Cruz based on what you've witnessed?
No, not really, because you're not really technically on the menu. They have, and I always use these stats. I've probably used it on the show before, but since 1950, when they started keeping statistics on this stuff, there's been an average of 3 to 4 attacks a year, and that's been pretty consistent. You have some years you have 0.
Worldwide?
No, this is just in the Monterey area. This is just in California.
You won't be
Your
surfing.
chances just went up.
What's
Neil.
that?
Yeah.
Your chances just went up.
Yeah,
Hurry up and start surfing again, TC.
Yeah.
The thing in California is like they have anywhere from 0 some years to 8 or 9 is really an unusual high year. But on average, it's 3 or 4. So over the last 75 years, you have 3 or 4 maybe a year. But and you look at the population's gone from 15 to 40 million.
Yeah.
People are way more in the water now. There's paddleboarding, there are all kinds more activities, but the number has not really changed. That tells you something about what's going on. And it's unfortunate if you're one of those people that happens to get an attack. And there are certainly areas you could go to if you want to increase your chances, like Año Nuevo at times of the year, Farallones. There's a few spots if you want to really up your odds of being attacked you can go to. But most of these places here, they have some attacks, but it's not just not
The population seems to be up. I know we don't net as much as we used to around here. Yeah. We don't have the bycatch that we used to.
Well, they passed in 1994. They passed a White Shark Protection Act. So you made it illegal that you can't target them. Mm-hmm. If you catch them accidentally, a fisherman stuff, They just and if they're dead, they just let Fish and Game know. But that probably helped a lot. But probably the big thing that helped was in the mid '70s they passed the Marine Mammal Protection Act. So basically they protected the food. And because they protected the food, the seal population could go down anywhere here, just gone nuts.
Oh man!
And so because there's more food here, there's going to be more sharks.
Yeah.
I went salmon fishing last week. There was a pack of seals. There must have been 200 of them out there, and all on a ball. I was like,
and that was.
I knew if I was a great white where I'd be hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I may have told the story before, but the first country to ever protect white sharks was South Africa in 1991. And I was actually a grad student there in 1990 when they contacted my professor, I mentioned Leonard Campagno, who worked on Jaws, to ask him to gather all the information on white sharks so they could develop this policy. And I was part of that. It was him and I gathering the stuff. But what drove it was the reason they did it was because the fishing community was getting wiped out by the seal population in South Africa. They were eating all the fishes. And there was a small group of guys, literally 5 or 6, that were targeting big white sharks for the Jaws. And so they're going hey, we need every white shark out here to eat more seals. And so it was the fishing community drove the first conservation program nationally for any shark really, but the white shark was the fishing community.
Yeah.
Right. Because Jaws, a great white jaw is like a tusk of a walrus or elephant.
Yeah, back then, I don't know what it is today, but back then, if you had a big set of jaws back in the 1980s, 90s, you'd get $5,000-$10,000 easily for that.
That's why they'd catch them.
Yeah.
The guys who would target them, they basically they were fishermen. They knew they could make some money and sell them off to Europeans or North Americans, and so they would go target them. So the commercial fishing industry really is what drove that whole process. And then I say California did it. Australia did it in '93 and California in '94.
What's great about this show is we normally don't talk about great whites so much on this show with you, being that we do have. And what's going on Friday, by the way? What are we
Friday
doing?
at 9 o'clock at Twin Lakes Church at the coffee shop, which is the Loft Coffee Shop. Great coffee shop, brand new facility. It's spectacular. Dave's going to be coming down, going to do a little talk. A little Q&A, right? Little Q&A, and Merge for Socks. Cindy's going to be there with Merge for Shark Socks.
Yeah.
So we'll be giving those away. It's going to be a fun little event for that day, which is the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws.
And if you happen to pick up a copy of my book before Friday, bring it. I'll sign it for you.
Oh, here you go.
Are you going to have some books there? Do you have?
No,
any?
I don't have any.
You don't have any? Okay.
No. But you get these Princeton University Press. PUP 30, you can get a discount.
Like
there.
I said, I have this book. This book's amazing.
I got that one.
It's on my coffee table mouse. I love it.
Yeah, and I say this one I take in the field with me when I go because it's I know a lot, but when a lot of these places I just need some kind of a thing just to kind of refresher.
When you're going to Madagascar and you're going to find is there a possibility to find something that you can name on that trip? Is that?
I hope so.
That's that next goal.
I never.
And can we name that shark the off the lip shark?
We'll see.
Well, we're gonna keep working on that.
Here's the thing. If I go looking for the off the lip shark, I'll never find it.
Yeah.
It's true. Sorry.
It could be it's out there, TC. He just hasn't found it yet.
Literally, if I put in my head, I'm going to go find. It's one of those things like you'll never find it. But if I'm going to look for all this other stuff, that's when I'll find some.
You know how he's going to know? He's going to pull up this little shark, and it's going to have a fat lip. He'll be like, oh!
That's the one.
That's the off-the-lip shark right there.
Yep,
okay, well,
absolutely.
There could be a possibility for that.
Yeah, you never know. We'll
okay,
see.
the anticipation is, I love it.
No, it's amazing. And you're traveling somewhere else. Maybe South Africa on that trip, too?
Yeah, I'll be going to South Africa afterwards for a bit. Yeah, I got Madagascar as the main trip, but then I have to fly through South Africa, so I'll be spending some time in South Africa.
Right,
in your opinion, where in the world are the most potential for you to discover sharks that are lost or sharks that haven't been found?
Africa.
It's Africa.
Yeah, South Africa's been worked pretty good, but Africa's really good. It's a really good area to go check out. There's parts of Asia.
Go down the Amazon, something like the Amazon.
South America's pretty good.
Yeah.
And we have to interject that it's also rays.
Yep.
Because a lot of your research has been.
Oh yeah, rays.
Rays
are flat sharks. I tell you guys because they're flat sharks. Yeah, and there's actually more rays to probably be discovered than sharks because nobody until recently, I'd say over the last 20, 30 years, really paid a lot of attention to the rays. There's a lot of rays that are out there to be discovered. And so there's there's a lot more.
We could be a Ray, TC.
Maybe we could
We
be
could be a Ray. I'll go with a Ray.
I'll go with the Ray too.
You'll be my ray of sunshine.
There we go. The off the lips sunshine.
Thanks, Dave, for coming back on the show, my friend.
No problem. No problem.
Again, let's blow this up.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're just tuning in, Dave Ebert, I always say this: you are the world's expert on sharks.
Yeah.
Aficionado. Who's the man?
And thank you for doing that and being a part of the Off Lip Radio Show.
And if you guys want to follow me, it's Lost Shark Guy on Instagram, and go check out my YouTube channel, Lost Shark Guy, if you want to see some of the interesting videos, the places I go.
And your podcast?
The podcast is the Beyond Jaws podcast.
Beyond Jaws.
Beyond Jaws, and we have a special this week, a 50-year anniversary with a group of my friends and I, the Jaws generation. Amazing episode. If you want to know what it was like in the 70s, 80s, starting out in this whole field, and get a book.
And the next time on the show, we will have have your friends get eaten by a shark bracelet available on your website.
We'll have a celebration of life for your friends that are getting it.
Yeah. So again, if you want to be safe in the ocean, get all of your friends anti-shark deterrents, and you'll be smiling as they are not. Neil, what a great show. Dave Ebert, the Lost Shark Guy, great to see you again.
AuthorItRadio.com.
Yes.
YouTube, Author Radio Show. Facebook, Instagram, Author Radio Show.
Right. And last week, can we just say what a great show that was?
Oh, that was a great show.
We had the Shoreline Middle School Summertime
Yep.
Band with kids from all over our point here. And
Are you here next week?
I am, yes.
Great band next week.
Who we got?
They're called Dalmatia.
Dalmatia.
They sought me out.
right.
Oh, man. Really
Okay,
good.
I love mystery music.
New music.
Yeah, new
Not-
music is the
It's
best.
new music.
Okay.
They've already texted me today. They're ready to go.
All right.
We're a week
That's
out.
amazing. Well, I can't wait for that. Once more, Friday. Go
Friday.
have a cup
The
of
Loft
coffee.
Coffee Shop at Twin
See our
Lakes Church in
guest,
Aptos.
Dave Ebert live. Dave, thanks for being here as always.
Yep.
Great show, Neil. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. T Fox, as always, thank you.
Sand Dollar. No, yes, it's called Sand Dollar Solar.
Sand Dollar Solar.
Is it right?
Yeah.
Is that my right?
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Sand Dollar
That's
Solar.
T
Check
Fox's-
that out.
that's
Thanks,
it,
T
yeah.
Fox.
T Fox always. We'll see you next week on the Off Lip Radio Show. Good night, everybody.